It's The Abundance Show with your coach, ShawnQ. Your weekly hangout with master coaches, thought leaders, and elite healers here to share with you powerful techniques you can use to change the world. Now, live on tape from Colorado Springs, it's ShawnQ.
Hello and welcome to The Abundance Show. I'm your host, ShawnQ, and have you ever been in a situation where you had to completely restart? You had to be in a place where everything seemed to shatter all around you, and you had to pick up the pieces and put it back together again. Maybe you've even found yourself where life is just upside down. Well, in today's episode, we are interviewing a really good friend of mine, Heather Wanninger, who is going to share with us how she went from being a sudden single mom to building a multi-six-figure photography empire. It's pretty incredible and an incredibly inspiring story. So let us know if you're live. Go ahead and let us know in the chat. Thank you so much for spending some time with us live. If you're on the rerun, thank you so much for spending time with us on the rerun. We're also going to explore the 7 laws of abundance. These are 7 laws that we actually have all of our clients implement to experience more success and more freedom in their life. You implement just one of these laws, life will shift forever. I'm really excited because we are also going to be going through how you can implement these laws. Now, if this is your first time watching, I'm ShawnQ, a high-ticket sales coach, as well as a 7-figure digital launch strategist and executive abundance coach. And I am so excited to go along on this journey with you. Now, go ahead, take a moment, and just take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. There are 7 laws of abundance that, when you begin to implement, will shift your entire life. We show these to our clients so they can experience immediate returns on their time and their energy and their finances, so they can immediately see the opportunity and the abundance around them. Here's the truth. We live in an incredibly abundant world. Let's take a journey back. Let's say in the 1700s, did you know there was no indoor plumbing? There were no cell phones, there were no pagers, there were no tablets or computers, there were no fax machines. There was literally, the only way someone could communicate with someone in another country is by carrier. You gave your letter to someone, they would ride on horse to the boat, they would ride the boat through the ocean to another country, deliver that note to another carrier who would then ride their horse to your home. It would take, on average, about 2 to 3 months before they received the letter. Now, in order to respond to that letter, we wrote the letter, we responded to the message we received, then we'd give it to the carrier would take it on the boat would take it to the carrier would deliver it to you another 3 months later. It would take 6 months for us to communicate back and forth. Now, I could literally go on my watch and send a message to someone in China, or the UK, or Ukraine, or Mexico. It's pretty incredible, the abundance of opportunity to communicate. Let's take another journey back. So let's say about 500 years ago, did you know food was incredibly scarce? And that was normal for 98% of the population. The only people who really could have enough food were kings and queens, the royalty, aristocracy, the incredibly uber wealthy. But for the majority of our species, we actually lived a pretty scarce and survivalistic life. It would be incredibly costly to buy food, like bread. It would take so much of our energy and time to find land where we could actually plant our own food. Take a lot of labor. Now, I could literally go down the street and get Jamaican food, Thai food, Mexican food, Chinese food, I could get sushi. Literally, there is an abundance of food. The average human now has access to over 3,000 calories a day. About 500 years ago, it was about 300 calories a day. So there's an abundance of access to food. Here's what's also really cool. The only people who were getting educated back in the day were the aristocracies and the royalty. They would have tutors. But if you were just a farmer, well, guess what? You continued to farm. If you were an ironsmith, guess what? You just continued to learn that one trade and you were an ironsmith. There was no learning math and English and science and biology and all of these studies we now have access to. There was no Google or internet. We had to learn the trade that we were born into. Now, one of the most common questions a young adult gets asked is, well, what do you want to be in when you grow up? That question alone speaks to abundance because there's an abundance of choice in front of us. We can now choose what we want to learn and pursue. There is abundance all around us. And oftentimes our brain still lives as if we lived in the 1500s. Scarce and survivalistic. So, it's our job then to take ownership of our mind, to take ownership of our thoughts, to take ownership of how we view the world, and begin to explore, do we really want to live as if we were in the 1500s? Do we want our brain to function as if it was 500 years ago? Or do we want to every day wake up, being able to see the abundance and opportunity and success all around us, pursuing the joy and fulfillment that is available to us? Well, if you say, yes, Shawn, I want to live a life of abundance. I don't want to live a life of scarcity. I don't want to base my behaviors and habits on outdated beliefs about the world. I want to upgrade my perspective so I can see success and I can tap into it. Well, there's good news because I want to share with you 7 laws of abundance that are going to help you really tap into this joy and success and opportunity that's right in front of you. Here's the first law of abundance. Let me just say this. Okay, lean in. You implement this one, just this one, I guarantee you'll start to see a crazy shift in the way that you show up in life. Write this down if you're taking notes. Put this in the chat. Number 1, you have what you're willing to ask for. You have what you're willing to ask for. Most of the time, there are 2 problems that come up. Number 1, you don't know what you want. And number 2, you don't know how to ask for it. Have you ever had someone come up to you, especially like a little kid? I have a niece that one day came up to me and said, Shawn, Uncle, Nino. I'm the cool Nino, so she calls me Nino. She says, Nino, I really want to ask you something, but I'm afraid you're going to say no. And it broke my heart because she had already learned what it meant to get rejected, to diminish herself even though she really wanted something. How often do we do that as adults? How often do we do that as coaches and entrepreneurs? Is diminish what we want because we're afraid of hearing no. Here's the homework I want to give you. Number 1, write down everything you want. And don't think about the how, but just write everything you want and go big. What do you want in your relationships? What do you want with your marriage? What do you want with your relationship to your kids and your family? What do you want when it comes to your finances? What do you want when it comes to your bank accounts? What do you want when it comes to investing? What do you want when it comes to your health, your energy, your vitality, your youthfulness? What do you really, really, really want when it comes to your living arrangement, to your environment? Have you written it down? Can you hand someone a document where they can read it and easily say, oh, this is what you really want in life? Well, if you haven't, that's your first step. Write everything you really, 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 really want. And then step 2 is begin to ask. Share. This is the vision I have for my life. How can I make this happen? Connect with people who've already accomplished what you really want and get mentored by them. Read their books, listen to their podcasts, watch their shows. Write it all down and then begin to ask. You have what you're willing to ask for. You want more clients? Go ask people to become more clients of yours. You want more money coming in? Go ask people who've generated a lot of money, how did you do it? How can I do it? You want healthy relationships and marriages? Go talk to someone who has a healthy relationship and marriage and ask them, how are you guys making this work? You have what you're willing to ask for. Law number 2, there's always something to give and always something to receive. Always something to give and always something to receive. There's a famous quote that I once heard, and it goes like this: if you want to receive love, you might not receive it. But if you want to give love, who can stop you? If you want to receive kindness, you might not receive it. If you want to give kindness, who can stop you? If you want to receive joy, you might not receive it. But if you want to give joy, who can stop you? Here's the truth. The greatest people who live in abundance are the givers. The more you give, guess what happens? The more you naturally receive. You tap into the power of reciprocity. So today I want you to make a decision. Who am I giving to today? Who in my space am I just going to give because I have something to give? I have love to give. I have hope to give. I have joy to give. I have kindness to give. There's always something to give. And on the other end of that, there's always something to receive back. Here's law number 3. Emotions are shapeable energy. We're not going to spend too much time here. But here's the truth. Your thoughts create emotions, except there's a missing piece there. Your thoughts actually create hormones that create emotions. So if you think positive thoughts, if you begin to shift the way you view yourself and think about yourself, well, guess what? You will feel better about yourself. If you think, oh, I'm just a loser, I'm insecure, I'm an imposter, well, guess what? You're going to feel that way. But if you begin to say, you know, I'm a learner, I am growing, I'm a high achiever, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a powerful coach, guess what? Those hormones that are created, serotonin, oxytocin, all of these incredible happy emotions will make you feel better. Guess what? You'll do better. Okay, law number 4, there's more than enough for all of us. There's more than enough for all of us. Just because I win doesn't mean you lose. Just because you lose doesn't mean I lose. Just because you win doesn't mean I lose. Here's what's incredible. Is when I see someone else winning, when you see someone else winning, instead of comparing yourself, recognize that if they could do it, so can you. There are no, this is going to sound weird, but there are no special people. There are just systems or behaviors or actions that people take. If you take those same systems, behaviors, actions, guess what's going to happen? You will experience the same results. So, there's more than enough for all of us. And when instead of comparing, begin to celebrate. Oh, that's amazing for you. I can't wait to do it too. Okay, law number 5. Embody, then begin. Your identity will shift your behavior more than anything else. How you view yourself will shift the habits you create in your life more than anything else. So, you want to be a professional, let's say you want to be a professional author. Well, guess what? Accept that title. You don't need to do anything to be a professional author. You are already a professional author. So now that you're a professional author, what does a professional author do every morning? Maybe they write for 5 minutes. What do they do every night? Maybe they read for 10 minutes. Well, start to do what your identity is. I started swimming a couple of years ago, and I made a decision, you know, I'm a professional swimmer. Well, what does a professional swimmer do? Well, they eat healthy. They swim 2 miles a day. And so I started doing those things. Now, we've just had a newborn, so my swim schedule and my diet's kind of all over the place as we're taking care of this new one. But I'm still a professional swimmer. So guess what? I still do things that a professional swimmer does. Embody the identity, then begin. Law number 6, many hands make light the work. Many hands make light the work. People want to help you. They want to support you. They just don't know how. They don't know you need help. Start asking for help. You'll start receiving help. And law number 7 is abundance for one is abundance for all. Abundance means this: overflow. If I have an abundance of money, I have an overwhelming amount of money, which means that money has to go somewhere. So I want you to ask, when you have an overwhelming amount of money, who's going to be the beneficiary of that? Well, for me, it's my wife, my daughter. It's my family. It's the causes that I really truly believe in. It's the organizations I'm a part of. When I have an overwhelming amount of love, well, that has to spill over somewhere. So where's that going to go? For you, begin to recognize that as you experience abundance, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Why? Because it allows you to give more than you've ever given. Whether that's financially, emotionally, relationally, spiritually, mentally. Abundance for one is abundance for all. Now, this brings me to my guest, who's a good friend. We've actually met a couple of times in person. We've had dinner. She's come to our retreats. Actually, she's coming to our retreat, which is coming up in June of this year, which is pretty amazing. And every time I have a conversation with her, I have an abundance of laughter and joy because she exudes joy. And I am just so excited to be able to connect with her today as she begins to share her story of how she went from being a sudden single mom to building a multi-six-figure photography business. It's incredibly inspiring. Go ahead and give a huge round of applause to Heather Wanninger. Heather, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here with you. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay, so I always have a really good time talking to you because you naturally are just like, I feel like you find the fun in every single situation. Is that like a natural thing or is that something you've had to develop?
No, it's very natural. I've always loved life, found joy in it. As you shared in the beginning in the intro, there were periods of time that it was harder to find that joy. And so there were periods like that, right? But overall, no, I'm always looking for the sunshine and the lemonade.
And that's part of your business, which is like lemonade or lemons to lemonade. Why that perspective?
Yeah. The whole lemonade theme is something that's very personal to me. As you had shared, I started my photography business after I became a single mom. I was a stay-at-home mom for about 11 years. Absolutely loved it. Still to this day, it's my favorite, most rewarding, most exhausting, as you now are starting to see, Shawn. The
Very much
most
so.
exhausting and wonderful title, right?
Yes.
Love being a parent. And I honestly didn't think I'd have another title outside of my home. Life got flipped, turned upside down. And this is where I want to start doing Fresh Prince, right? It turns upside down, send me to Bel Air. But I was like, what do I do now? I'm now becoming a single mom. I was just in a relationship that was not healthy. It wasn't serving me. And I spent many years settling, not really understanding that that wasn't what I wanted or deserved. It just became kind of what I put up with. And so over the years, I just felt unworthy and unloved and not smart enough and not capable and all these things. And it really correlates with the abundance that you were talking about, the 7 laws of abundance. I just didn't feel like I was capable, that I could do things for other people and help and serve. And so when he had an affair, it was actually the biggest blessing because we tried to work on it a little longer. That didn't happen. Became a single mom. I can look back now and be very thankful for those things because I would have stayed in a relationship that just wasn't serving for me. So that's when my business started. I had a friend that encouraged me to take pictures. I've always loved taking photos, but never believed that it would become a business for me. And I had someone that, no, you need to do it. So they kind of pushed me, right? She was like my life coach in a way. No, you can do it. You can do it. And I did. And early on, I knew I'm like, I want I don't just want my name attached to the photography. It just felt like because of my story, there was more that I wanted to share. And so my business name is Sweet Lemonade Photography because literally life gave me lemons. And that's when I started my business and I created Sweet Lemonade Photography.
You mentioned that you were in this unhealthy relationship and that it was a blessing and now you're thankful for it. I'm curious that journey because I can see it being very difficult, especially when experiencing it, to be thankful for those challenges. What got you there? How did you get to that point?
Yeah. And you are right. And I like that you're not glossing over that, like, hey, great, there's lemonade in every single minute. There was about the first 12 to 18 months that I had a very difficult time even doing the day-to-day basics. I have 3 boys, and at the time they were very young. I put all the energy that I gave them all of my energy, got them up and got them to school. And then after that, I would come home and I would sleep most of the day. There was a lot of depression. There was a lot of anxiety. I just didn't understand how I got in this position, right? My happily ever after that I thought, that I envisioned, it blew up, right? So I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so there were very dark times where I just really was questioning my worth. What could I have done better? What could I have done, stronger, smarter, all these things to have fixed it, to have kept the glue together. And so in that first year or two, there were really negative times. There were seasons where it was taking all my energy to do just a few things. The first thing I did was I pulled everything off my plate that wasn't necessary. I was involved in my church. I was involved in a board on a local nonprofit, all things that are very wonderful. And I knew that I needed to retain and take care of myself and my boys. That was the priority. And so I pulled anything that was not necessary off of my plate. And that was huge. It was a hard thing to say initially because I felt like I was quitting when I said, you know what, I just can't take on this role anymore. I need to step back. But once I did, I was so thankful because I could focus on a few things each day as opposed to a whole lot, which really helped from a mental standpoint, just to be able to know that I was being successful in certain things, like keeping my kids alive, just something minor like that, making sure that they were fed, making sure that they got to school okay. So the early days were challenging. All throughout, though, I did still find the lemonade. I had wonderful friends. I had a support system that was amazing. I had a mom that was very helpful. I had, and early on, actually, photography started pretty early on after the divorce process started. I had photography, right? So there were things that were forcing me to put one foot in front of the other. Yes, it was my choice. It's everything that we do is choices, but I felt like I had to go do something. And photography was the biggest blessing because I was finding that as I was leaving for shoots, often I would have kind of negative energy. I'm like, I just don't want to go. I just really want to sleep, right? I just want to be home. And as I left, I did the session. When I came back, I had more energy, more excitement, more hope, more enthusiasm, more sparkle in life, in my life, light in my life. So I was finding the lemonade in those things as well. And so sometimes it's just making sure that you have a great support system around you, finding the people that are either a step ahead of you on it, if it's a similar journey as you, finding someone that's already a step ahead to give that hope and encouragement. Like, okay, if they can do it, like you're talking about in Laws of Abundance, okay, if they can do it, I'm seeing them do it. I see that they're doing it. I can do it too. And so having the right people around me, having a purpose. For me, my boys were my major purpose. Photography became another purpose for me. And so with those things, I was always finding the joy, but it became even easier to find the joy in the day-to-day as I continued through my purpose.
What I'm hearing in what you're saying is that you removed everything that was not absolutely fundamental to your survival, and it created space for you to receive support from community, support from family, and do you feel like you would have found photography if you were still doing all the other things?
Maybe, but would it have been as easy or poignant? No. So you have that open space. And I find that in my business as well. It is necessary and imperative to have that down space, to have that openness of, for me, it's like being able to sit in the hot tub for 20 minutes in the morning and just reflect and thank God. And what's my day ahead? What are things, some of my best ideas, some of my biggest growth opportunities, connections I've made, all these things, it comes when our days are not jam-packed full. And when my days are so full, that is where I can create more stress. I can feel more overwhelmed. I'm not showing up in the best way in the areas of my life that are most fundamentally sound and what I really want to do in my family, in the relationships that I have, in my business. And so I think you're absolutely right. Having that open space allows for opportunities that you might not have pursued, that you might not have realized were even a potential. And even just like being open to it and being and kind of letting that fear of, well, I don't know what if, I'm like, oh, well, I have the space. Let's just explore.
Hmm. Do you was photography at the beginning a safe space where you found joy and it was something new, or was it like I'm doing this because I want to start this business and this is how I plan on like feeding my family?
Oh no, I did not think that I could run a business. I did not think that it was possible. I did not start it that way with any intention whatsoever. It was a friend telling me, "You really have an act. You should do this." I'm like, "I don't think I do." And okay, well, I'll try. I'll charge $50 and I'll go out and take pictures. For me, it was a confidence boost that was like the initial like drug that photography gave me. Was I'm like, "Wow, someone wants to actually pay me for something I'm doing. I'm worthy. Like I'm good enough that someone wants to literally hand over dollars to do something." And so that was something that, I wasn't I wasn't used to having that exchange of worth, right? And now the longer I work in personal development and explore, my own feelings and self-worth, right? It's not from the external, but that was something that really helped initially, like, wow, okay. So maybe I could do this. And it was still starting more of just a fun thing. I remember at one point I told myself, okay, I'm going to either get to create a business that's going to generate $25,000. So if we talk about abundance and our lack of my goal was $25,000 and it felt like such a huge astronomical stretch. If I want to do this as a business, I get to figure out how to make $25,000 or I get to go find work for someone else. And I realized in that time of just enjoying and finding that fun and getting the high of serving other people and seeing their joy and excitement when they see the images that I've taken and them feeling beautiful, worthy, and loved. I'm like, oh, like this is good stuff. I really want to do this. I took it serious. Then I started to figure out, well, what does it mean to run a business? How can I make that much money doing something I love? Right. It seemed unbelievable, unfathomably that I could actually run a business doing something I enjoyed. So a lot of photographers, we start off as a hobby and then we try to figure out how to make it a business. And I did. I knew I didn't want to work for anyone else. And so I'm like, all right, dive in. Let's go. Let's figure it out. And here's the cool thing. When you start setting goals, kind of like your first law, Shawn, do you have everything what you're willing to ask for? So up until that point, I was just, yes, oh gosh, $200. Yes, I'm making money. In reality, we all know it really wasn't a profitable business at that point. But I started to know, I'm like, I'm going to ask for more. It's a choice for my clients to choose if they want to spend $500 or $5,000, but I'm going to start asking for it because I have a goal. And the cool thing is I had a $25,000 goal. And in 1 year, because of the commitment, because of my desire, because of my intentions, and really getting serious about it, I went from a $20,000 to $100,000 in 1 year. And here's the coolest part. It was easy.
I love that. So you had this massive goal, which was 25,000, which is not anything to be snooty about. Like that's a big goal. And then you like surpassed that by 4 times to hit 100,000.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I mean, I laugh at the $25,000 goal. And right, if that's someone's goal and they hit it, that's amazing. I laugh at 25,000 because I thought that was pipe dream for me to hit. Right. And then I'm like, yeah, my one of my coaches at the time, she even said, she's like, are these even like goals for you? You're hitting this so easily. I'm like, it really is. I never had a $10,000 month. And, and that point near the end, then I'd had my first $50,000 month. She's like, all right, Heather, I don't know what you're doing. I'm like, it's easy. I don't know what's happening. And her response was, does it have to be hard? And I think that is something that I'm like, I mean, it took me a minute when she said that because I'm like, well, no, I guess not. But I internalized that my worth meant that if I wanted to hit really large numbers, that it needed to be hard. It needed to be long drawn out. It needed to be a process that I was really grinding and fighting for and this and that. And I find like when you just go after and focus on what you love and your excitement around it, that joy, it is contagious. It is something that people want to be around. and you're going to attract the people that you're meant to serve, whether it's in photography, whether it's coaching, whatever your business or life, right? You're going to attract the people that are meant to be in your life, in your circle, whether it's business or personal. And I think the more we focus on how to serve as opposed to a financial goal, it becomes easier, because when we're talking about serving people, it's where our excitement in our heart is. And when we're focused on our heart, all of the other stuff comes so much easier than I ever would have anticipated.
And when you say work on your heart, is that working on the like sense of unworthiness and sense of this has to be hard, I have to hustle and grind for this, or something else?
I think two things when I say work on the heart. I think it's that piece as far as what is my worthiness? Where do I find my worthiness? And the love and the characteristics that I embody. It's not about doing. And that's where for a long time, and I can still get tripped up there, right? I need to do to be able to deserve, and deserve. It's not an equal, and so that's where it's like when I can just be more in being who I am, being authentic to who I am, showing up in the way I love and serve and give, and do it abundantly, everything else falls into place and it becomes so much easier. If I'm working on a certain project, for instance, and I'm like, man, I'm just pushing because I feel like, this is something that I could do. It could be a great revenue. It could be this and that. When I'm focused on revenue, then it becomes more about the dollars and not about my heart to serve. So it's my knowing my heart and just kind of who I am, but also the heart of how I want to show up and serve others. So when I focus on the dollars, as opposed to how can this help and serve those that I want to work with, it becomes kind of skewed. And so when I'm focused just on serving and being abundant and giving everything that I can, it all comes back tenfold. And it's a conversation I just had with my youngest last night, actually. And it's something that we'll continue to have conversations on, to understand that there is so much more you can gain when you give even more.
Where do you think for you that do equals deserve kind of mindset came from?
Yeah, a lot of it was in my marriage. There might have been other pieces, even before that. But in my marriage, that is definitely one piece where it was just, well, maybe I'll feel more loved if I make better cooked meals. If I, make sure the house is cleaned every night, when he comes home. If I make sure that the kids are, that I do everything myself. If I make sure that I put the kids to bed and don't ask for his help, then maybe I'll be more appreciated or I'll be loved. These are just things that, based on our relationship, how it made me feel. And so I think a lot of it was just, I need to do more to be appreciated, loved, valued, and felt worthy. And so that's been 12 years or so since then. And so it's been a lot of years of just continuing to discover, right? And it's layered. It's like an onion, right? I'm like, oh, okay. There are pieces where I'm like, oh, I shed that. That feels great. I no longer have that. And then all of a sudden something else comes and creeps around the corner. It's like, ooh, okay, something's still there. Let's explore that a little bit more. Where is that coming from? Even something that we'd worked on, Shawn, about, what do we really want? Like you were asking, and guys, if you're watching this, do the homework. What do you really want? That was a wonderful exercise for me of what do I really, really want? And as I was writing things down, understanding what was coming up for me, when I set a goal and then all of a sudden I lowered it and maybe went, and then I'm like, wait, what? If what I really want, this came to mind, but now I'm willing, and then I immediately lowered it. Why was I doing that? Well, clearly there's something still there that I get to explore. So it's not you go through a counseling, you go through coaching, you go through, whatever, an exercise, and all of a sudden fixed, right? And I shouldn't even say fixed because that's not even an appropriate word, but you feel like you've made it, right? We're just always exploring. We're humans. We are going to continue to explore things about ourselves and others and just become a better version of ourselves every day. And I there are things I'm always like, I'm so glad that I was at a conference this weekend. And I was talking to someone, I'm like, I look back and I've done the online dating thing. About every year I'll go on and I'll, scroll for a while. And then I usually hop off. I'm like, okay, this isn't worth my time. I want to focus elsewhere. But you can look back at where, like, who you were engaging with in conversations, years, it's still there. And I look and I'm like, wow, I am so glad that God did not put someone in that arena for me at that time that would have given me half of the attention, because the level of what I felt I deserved, I look back and I can laugh. I'm like, oh no, my standards have gotten higher because I believe in myself. I know what I can show up and contribute and give. And I have so many amazing people in my life, from friends to family to my own kids, that are my priority. And I know if anyone else is going to come into my circle, and not just in a loving relationship, right? Even just new business friendships, or anyone else, how is it that they are going to impact my life in a way that is so much more meaningful to bring them into my circle? And it goes both ways, right? How can I give to them in a way that is going to be most impactful? And so I've become I'm still very open in so many ways, but my inner circle, I look at it a little bit differently. Like, who do I want to be in my circle to fill me up, and how can I fill them up?
You mentioned earlier this exploration of, like, being willing to say, oh, there's something there still. I think I need to explore that, or I need to sit in that feeling. Where does the courage to explore? Because that's a very vulnerable space to be in. To, like, oh, I'm not perfect. I have issues. Where does that courage come from?
I think as you start to explore things and you start to heal from the things that have been hurting you, it gives you more courage. I can't, pinpoint like the first time that I felt like I really did that homework and explored and all that, to know how I did it the first time. But what I do know is that when I go in and I explore and I sit with those feelings and I journal, or I talk to someone about it, or, even just sitting and thinking and about those thoughts, when I can do that, it's very eye-opening things that I learn about myself, about who I am, thinking about who I really want to be. And is that thought, that person, that idea, that, doing, attitude, whatever it is it serving me to get there? And I've done this enough times. I'm like, man, it is so, so good to release that. I mean, there's pain in the stuff, right? I mean, I'm not saying all this stuff when you dive in, it's like hunky dory and so happy. I mean, there are things I'm like, man, and not just my, relationship as a wife, ex-wife, in that relationship when I was a wife, it's not even just that. It's pieces that I've explored about how I am as a parent, how I am as a daughter, things where I would have guilt around, oh, okay, there's some emotion coming up with that one. So it's not just one area. When going through the divorce, it took all of my energy to make sure that I was the mom. And I still get to explore those things of, did I show up? And again, it's that worthiness. Did I show up good enough for them? Did I show up and give them everything that I had? Could I have done better? Did I get upset in a way with them that wasn't handled properly, right? All of these things. And so you get to explore all that stuff. And at the end of the day, I just know my kids know that they are loved without anything attached to it, not based on, how they show up, I love them for who they are. They can't do anything to make me love them less. They can't do or say anything to make them for me to love them anymore. Right. And so it's like, whatever they do, I am there for them just as they are. And so in those pieces, I can look back and feel bad. I wished I could have had more energy. I wish that I would have been able to walk away from the room instead of, spouting off something that, words that could have hurt in my frustration and anger. Right. So it's like all of these pieces. And I have conversations with the boys. I talk to them about this stuff. I'm like, do you remember, and often they actually don't even remember. So I'm like, we hang on to this stuff ourselves when they're like, no, I don't remember. But we'll still have a conversation. Like, I'm so sorry if what I had said had hurt you. And if you felt like that you were not loved, it was never my intention, whatever those pieces are. So I think it's when I see that our relationships can get stronger when we show up authentically and vulnerably, and if we make missteps, we acknowledge it, right? And I tell the boys all the time, like, I'm like, you know what? You will not understand until you're a parent yourself. If you choose to have kids, we're not perfect. We will make mistakes every day. And the best I can do is make sure that I show up for you and love you. And when I make mistakes, apologize and ask for your forgiveness and hope that tomorrow I show up better. And because of those conversations, our relationships are stronger. Because of the forgiveness in the relationship with my ex, I show up a better version of myself, not just for me, but for my kids and for everyone I interact with. So because I see the work that I've done and how it's helped me grow to be a better person. My mom had said a couple of years ago, she's like, and I don't, it's maybe been a few years, time's going fast, but she had said, it's so good to see your bubble back. She said, Heather, I can see the bubble that was missing for a while. And so it's really cool to know that you're in a space where I am who I am. I show up. I love and serve and give. And those that want to be around me, they're going to come in. Those that, my energy is not for them, great. They're going to go somewhere else, but I'm living authentically. And it feels to be great to be in a good space like that and to have that kind of my version of me for my boys, right? For them to be able to see, this is my mom. She is happy. She is joyful. She is giving. She is serving. She is loving. I want to be the best example I can be for them. And so to me, regardless of the pain that I go through to uncover those layers of the onion, it's worth it. It's so worth it for our relationship and for me just to be an example to them.
I want to show this picture of you and your kids at the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And this is such an incredible picture. So much joy is exuding in this photo. How has it been building this business, but also bringing your kids along with your journey? Has it been very easy? Are those conversations difficult? Tell us some more about that.
Yeah. That day at the Leaning Tower piece, like we had so much fun and there was so much joy because we were doing all these silly things, all the typical Leaning Tower of Pisa, holding it up and, doing all these things. And my boys, they wanted nothing to do with that. And I'm like, well, then fine. I'm like, you're just taking a bunch of pictures of me. I'm like, I don't know that we're ever going to be back here again. We're doing it. And they actually did all indulge me in one picture of each of them. And they're like, don't you dare post this anywhere. And they're holding it. I'm like, I won't post them. They're for my joy only. But there is so much fun around them just seeing me be silly and laughing and some of the poses that they were doing. Like John had even told me as he was trying to direct me and I wasn't following his directions. He's like, lean and do this and that. I couldn't follow directions. And he's like, you are a photographer, for crying out loud. Why are you not understanding what I'm asking you to do? So all of that joy, it was from being silly. It was from being open and just having fun. And so I love that trip. We did that last year. Lots of fun. And you talk about, how has it been with the, bringing the boys along? Like, it's been so fun for them to see because, they saw the days where I was trying to figure out how to, shoot on manual mode because I was charging people and I was shooting in auto, right? So I'm learning my business as I went along. They saw those things. They saw the late nights. They saw the hard work I was putting in it. They're seeing all of the things and the cool things that we're able to do now because of the business. And that's why I tell the boys, I'm like, this is so cool. I'm like, and the other thing that I like about it is they're seeing the entrepreneurial spirit and it's allowed me to be much more open with them and the ideas that they have for their lives, right? I've started, I think, 4 different businesses with my youngest. He's, hey, I want to sell shoes on Instagram. I think he was 12. Okay, cool. Well, what do you need to make that happen? Let's start it. And of course he starts with, I need a $3,000 computer. I need this. I'm like, well, that's not how businesses start. We're going to bootstrap this. What do you need? Oh, you need an Instagram account. What else do you need? Right. So I am very open to being like, all right, how can I support you? All right. When we hit this goal, then we can talk about getting you a computer. We can talk about doing these things. Most of them have all fizzled out before we even got to those goals, but right. We're seeing and we're supporting that. And all of my boys, I can tell them like, man, find something you love, chase what you enjoy doing. You can find a way to create revenue in that and help others. And so I've really enjoyed the journey with them. From a financial standpoint, it's been a great journey to learn together. And I don't mean like the dollars I brought in. I mean, how do you run a business? Because I was not involved in any of the finances during our marriage. When I was about 35, I was like, well, now I feel like I'm a 19-year-old kid trying to figure out where I even pay the electricity bill. I had no clue. So I started really late in life to even understanding how to budget for a household, let alone starting a business. And initially, I remember getting frustrated and mad, like feeling like I'm so stupid. I I don't even know how could I run a business? I don't even know, how much our electricity is and who I pay it for. Where's the insurance? Do I need insurance? Do I have it? All these questions. And it would have been easy to continue down that negative rabbit hole. And instead, as I learned, and I learned at a very beginner level, what was cool is I got to bring my boys in that journey as well. So they were in their teens. And I'm like, guys, I need to tell you about something I learned. It's called compound interest. And I start telling you about it. I'm like, this is so sexy because if we get $20,000 in your account the time you're 18, that can be $1 million when you retire. You don't understand, right? And at the time they were not excited and they'd roll their eyes as many times as they heard that every time. I know, mom, we can be a millionaire. I'm like, yes, you can. And we're going to set it up in a way that you are going to be able to do whatever you want in life without having to have the, fears and worries of the financial things. Let's start you off on the right track. And so it became a very exciting thing to learn at the very basics of level because I was able to teach them as I went along. If I knew all this stuff and it all came very natural to me, I don't know how much I would have shared with them because it might have just felt like so easy. And maybe, well, everybody learns this. Everybody knows this, right? I didn't know it and I was sharing with them. So I think there's so much great value that I've been able to pass on as I'm learning. And then as I take these small steps, guess what? The next step isn't near as scary. Then I can do this. Then I'm looking at these opportunities. The types of things that I'm doing beyond just my own business, 5 years ago, I never would have fathomed I could do. I'm able to do it because I've taken those small steps and I'm able to bring my boys along with it the whole way.
How meaningful has that been for you?
Very. Yeah. It's something where I feel like it's what I'm teaching them is going to be so much more valuable than any amount of money that I could have left for them when I leave Earth. To be able to have these lessons and instill with them, go for it. Let's chase it. I'm supporting you. Let's figure out how you want to do this goal, or go after this dream. Let's do it together. Yes. Okay. So what does it look like? My oldest, he's been selling baked goods since he was 12. He's paid for trips through school to go to Peru. He's helped pay for his college education through that. He's learning these things. And he learned it because at 11 years old, I took him to the grocery store. We bought all the supplies and then he did all the math. Let's figure out, okay, you need 2 cups of flour. How much does that cost for that one cake? How many eggs? What does that cost? Well, now he better recalculate his cost of doing business because eggs alone have skyrocketed. They're 10 times the amount now. But he learned the basics of that. What is the costs of this? And that's something I didn't do in my own business for 5 years because I didn't know. And honestly, even when I did know, I still avoided it for a while because it was scary and I felt I was going to feel more stupid by trying to learn. So,
and is that why you love working on all of these things that you've mentioned with your clients?
yeah, yep. Yeah. I mean, I'm not the one, if someone wants to learn how to take pictures, I will recommend them to someone else. The business side of it, helping them know the numbers, helping them know the worth, that is exactly why, because it is such a personal passion for me.
Heather, I feel like every single time we have a conversation, I am so inspired by you. I want to show one more picture. And this is a picture that I think really captures the joy and fun. And it's on screen. It's you doing like this dance move as Superwoman. From being in a space where you didn't think you could even run a business or pay electricity bill to now, tell us where you're at and what you're doing now.
Yeah. That picture that was just taken this weekend at a photography conference. And, I think one thing that even those that I'm very much an extrovert and I love meeting people and I love engaging. But I will tell you, even showing up at that conference, because I went alone and didn't know anybody, there was a moment that I had to be like, okay, let me kind of put on that superwoman cape, right? Because I'm like, it could have been very easy for me just to kind of like skirt on the outskirts of it and not really dive in. And so I say that just as encouragement of anyone that's feeling like, I don't know, I'm scared. Well, we get to do things scared anyway, and it's okay. And it wasn't near as scary. It was a wonderful conference. I made so many great new friendships, connections, people that are helping in the business, and people will be lifelong friends because I took that step. And that that picture with the cape, it was at the dance party. And at the dance party, I'm like, I don't want to go out there. I love dancing, right? I'll dance in my shower, right? But I'm like, oh man, people, I'm judged. Like, I became so much focused on what they're doing. Oh man, they're going to judge me. I'm like, no, get out there. Like, I literally was having this internal dialogue. Get out on the dance floor. And I did, and I had so much fun. Closed the dance party down, had a great time. And that was when Superman came on. I'm like, and I'm doing the cape. And I remember posting that picture, one of me in the costume later, and on my Instagram stories. And I wrote, I am super mom. I am super business owner. I'm super photographer. I'm a super woman. And as I wrote that, I remember just pausing for a second, being like, huh, like I believe those things. And at one point in my life, I wouldn't have been able even to write those because I would have felt like a total fraud. And because of the mind work and believing, like you talked about, right? We get to start saying those things, who we are, and we will start believe them, and we show up in a different way. As I wrote those, I'm like, I believe every single one of those. I am a super friend. I'm a super daughter. I am a super woman. I don't even remember what your question was. I don't even think I answered it.
I think it's such an incredible journey of being at a place where you don't believe it, and now you fully do. And there's this moment that's captured that exudes joy, exudes freedom, exudes super womanhood. And you are such an example of what's possible when you make a decision to say, life doesn't have to look this way. I'm going to follow the breadcrumbs. I'm going to follow the joy. I'm going to build what I want with the life I've been given. I'm going to create the lemonade that these lemons are giving me. I love it, Heather. Okay, we're going to go into our speed round. 30 seconds or less to answer these questions. I have 10 questions for you. Are you ready for these questions? They're really hard questions. I just wanted to prepare you. Okay, question number 1. What meal do you always grab seconds of?
Oh my goodness, pizza. I mean, I just love pizza. There's so many options, so many toppings. You can never get bored. I think that'd be the thing that I'd eat the rest of my life.
I love it. We have pizza day every Sunday night, and I look forward to pizza day every week.
That's awesome.
So awesome. Okay, who was your favorite teacher growing up and why?
Oh gosh. You know, who I think of so much as Mr. Imony. He was my math teacher, and he was hard, stubborn, Italian man. He'd get mad if we didn't listen. He was up on his table and he was shouting at us. And so I think at the time, I think of him and I think of my basketball coach, Coach Martin. Both of them really, they believed in you more than you believed in yourself. They had high expectations for you. They wanted you to do well. And at the time, I might not have appreciated it. Might not have appreciated Coach having us run sprints and doing all these things. But I tell you what, when I left that environment and I moved on to college, I missed it.
I love it. What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. My kids could probably tell you a dozen right off the bat. I'm always seems like I'm doing something silly or whatever. When I was wearing that Superwoman cape, the outfit, it was a little easy breezy. It was a little shorter and a little more flimsy than I might have thought when it straight out of the gate. So lesson learned, I will wear shorts next time. And maybe even if I don't, I'll make sure my granny panties aren't inside out when I'm wearing that. So, I mean, I laugh at myself with whatever happens. So that was the most recent.
I love it. So funny. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, gosh. Best piece. Oh my goodness, there's so many. One of the quotes that I have on my computer is, let your why power fuel your willpower. And that's one that I just look to sometimes because, we can get tired. We can, it's like I can get overwhelmed. I can get all these things, right? But instead it's like if you just focus on your why, that will lead you and continue to be inspired versus, like we talked about the financial piece earlier. It's like, just focus on what you want to do, how you want to impact those around you and the legacy you want to create. And you are going to keep going along all the way through.
Who was the first musical artist you totally gushed over growing up?
Man. I don't really remember gushing over anyone growing up. I do remember my first conference. You can tell where my mind is now. In the world I live in today, I'm in conferences. Back in the day, I was in concerts. The first concert I went to was MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice.
Wow.
And I had the Hammer pants. I had multiple pair. I sported them. Yeah, I look good.
Could you do the dance?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't see me now, but yeah, I'm let's just say I'm awesome.
I love it. How did you find and land your last client?
The last client was actually from a podcast interview that I had done, and it was on someone else. It was actually on Sue Bryce's podcast, and someone had heard me and scheduled a call, and she's now my newest person I'm coaching.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you think happens when we die?
Oh, we go to heaven. I get to see my dad. I lost him when I was in high school. And so I look forward to being able to see him again and be able to just be reunited with everybody. And I just keep praying that all of my boys will believe the same thing. So I'm with them too.
That's amazing. What's the most used app on your phone?
Facebook. You can tell I say that lovingly. Like it's one that I pull off often from time to time where I'm like, okay, that's spending too much time. That's too much scrolling, right? It's a great tool to use if you are actually using it and not just consuming. And there are seasons where I'm like, okay, I have too much consumption.
Who are you super inspired by right now?
My boys, and particularly my middle, who a few years ago and not that long ago was in a really, really tough space. And to see him thriving and loving life and in the aviation school and finding his confidence and his love and just embracing life. Like, I'm just so proud of him and he inspires me.
It's so clear how much you love your family and how much you love your kids.
I do.
So powerful. Who is someone you need to shout out to and why?
Are you on the list? Can I put you on the list? I mean, no, seriously, there were so many things that we have learned in this last year since I joined that has really helped me, push me over, get me out of my comfort zone, just helping me get those manageable tasks. Here's the homework. Accountability is a huge thing for me and the people that I coach. And it's because I know how big of a piece it is for me and helping me get to the next step. And so having someone that believes in me, that encourages me, that supports me, that provides that guidance on a weekly basis to get to that next level. I mean, I'm doing things now that a year ago, I'm like, I wouldn't have even dreamt to apply to be on these podcasts or to speak at events or, do these things. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not even applying thinking, oh, I hope I'm chosen. I'm applying for all these things. I'm like, who wouldn't want we need to do this. Who wouldn't want to say yes to this? So that confidence has been created because of your support and the stuff that we've been doing. And so I'm very grateful for that.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. Okay, the last question is, where can folks connect with you? If they want more information or they just want to connect, where can they reach you?
Yeah, well, as I already told you, I'm on Facebook, so you can find me there. My business name is Sweet Lemonade Photography, so you can find me on Facebook or Instagram for that. Personally, I'm on there, Heather Wanninger. And then my coaching side of things is getmorephotoclients.com. You can also find it on my website, which is sweetlemonadephotography.com. That's where I have information for people that are interested in senior pictures, for corporate sessions, and then for coaching as well. And I've got a couple retreats coming up, which traveling is my jam. So we're doing Costa Rica in February. We're doing Morocco in September. I've got 2 spots open for Morocco left in September. So if you guys like to travel And if you like to learn business and grow and have a great community support around you, I'm like, you're going to need to follow me one way or another, because we're just getting started with all this traveling and education.
I love it. And I think Addie and I are trying to figure out if our schedule makes sense for us to go to Costa Rica. So I think it's going to be so fun.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Oh my gosh, Heather, this has been so inspiring, so fun, so many lessons from just listening to your story. Thank you so much for being on the Abundance Show today.
Thank you, Shawn. I loved it.
Oh my gosh. All right, now listen. I want to give a huge thank you to you. If you've been listening, if you've been commenting, thank you so much. Here's what I want you to do. Don't just let these insights live for just a moment. Really turn these insights into transformation for you. Take a moment and just sit with yourself. Give yourself 10 minutes to breathe and to breathe in all of the goodness you heard today and breathe out all of the things you're letting go of. I'm going to give a huge special thank you to our sponsor, the Colorado Springs Media Studio. It's where we actually host the Abundance Show. They are hosting the 90-day marketing intensive. So you fly in for 3 days. The team at the Colorado Springs Media Studio records your content, and then for the next 90 days, you have marketing built in for you, scheduled, published, created, quotes, videos, short form reels and TikToks, just a ton of stuff. If you're interested, go ahead and reach out and I'll connect you with the team that is in charge of that. And a huge special thank you to Heather Wanninger, our guest today. I'm ShawnQ, your host, and we'll see you in the next episode.